Hello and welcome to a very special 2-hour edition of Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. You're looking live at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where shortly President Obama will take the podium. And Saturday Night Live comedian Cecily Strong will host the festivities. We'll take you there live as soon as the headliners hit the stage. But first, to my opening statement. I'm going to shock you. Hillary Clinton would be, without a doubt, hands down, the absolute best CEO of a public company. Ruthless, profit-driven, and all about the money. But if you're looking for a different kind of CEO, one to run the greatest nation on earth and bring back America, now teetering on the brink of socialism, to be president of the United States, Hillary Clinton is the worst possible choice. She, in fact, is the person to run away from. And what makes you think she cares about you? She doesn't care about you. This woman only cares about herself, money, her next step up the political ladder, and if president, will only care about her legacy. And if you don't see that from events of this past week, then you are exactly the kind of tuned-out voter that Hillary is hoping to turn out in droves in 2016. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about influence peddling on a global scale and the setting of American foreign policy to coincide with the flow of hundreds of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation and millions directly to Bill Clinton and ultimately Hillary in speaking fees. Exhibit 1. Bill takes a plane ride to Kazakhstan with a Canadian who wants to buy uranium. Now, the president of Kazakhstan is a human rights violator. But Bill actually praises his human rights record and then expresses support for that president to lead an international elections monitoring group. Crazy, because that Kazakh president is accused of rigging his own elections. But back to the deal. Now, Kazakhstan approves the sale of uranium to Bill's flying buddy. And months later, the Clinton Foundation gets a $31.3 million donation from the Canadian, which was a secret and not disclosed by the Clintons until the Canadian government outed it. Now, the Canadian wants to sell his uranium business to Russia. Enter the Clintons. The State Department approval is needed and granted. Bill gets a $500,000 speaking fee, and Russia now controls 20% of the U.S. uranium production, a national strategic asset. That very same Russian company, Uranium One, made a $2.35 million contribution to the Clinton Foundation, not disclosed by the Clintons. Now, Hillary has always been against foreign governments controlling U.S. strategic assets like ports.
We believe that no foreign government should control our ports.
But Hillary has a change of heart after huge amounts of cash, both reported and unreported, flow into the Clinton Foundation. Russia, the same country that sends uranium to Iran, which aspires to build its own nuclear weapon, now controls a great deal of American uranium. Exhibit 2. A guy named Pinchuk manufactures steel pipes in the Ukraine. He and Bill become fast friends. His company does business with Iran, violating U.S. trade sanctions. Hillary is Secretary of State, and her department is tasked with holding foreign companies responsible for violating sanctions. The Clinton Foundation receives millions of dollars from the Pinchuk Foundation with a pledge to give another $20 million more. And shocker, the State Department never sanctions Pinchuk for any violations. Exhibit 3, a tragic earthquake in Haiti. 316,000 people die. Hillary there within days, as is Bill. As people dig bodies out of buildings, Bill promoting a wireless phone system for Haiti. His good friend Dennis O'Brien, a man of virtually no digital experience, receives a grant to create that very system. And a man previously unknown to Haiti is now the biggest player in mobile phones in that country. Now, folks, there's no question that Bill Clinton's speaking fees tripled and quadrupled when Hillary was Secretary of State, while the contributors who stood to profit from Hillary's influence at the State Department employed Bill. Historically, prosecutors have looked for quid pro quos from politicians when they deliver to constituents or contributors. Politicians doing business for themselves and lining their own pockets is the essence of public corruption. Not only were contributions to the foundation and speaking fees to Bill made, but in many of these deals, both Hillary and Bill were in the subject foreign country at the same time, wheeling and dealing. She wielding American diplomacy, and he receiving speaking fees of $500,000 to $750,000, and their foundation, the huge beneficiary of hundreds of millions of dollars, some reported and some not. You know, prosecutors have convicted politicians for things as simple as a free cab ride in exchange for favors. Anything from bribery, conspiracy, corruption, a violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Whenever an American government official accepts gifts intended to curry favor, he crosses the line. Now, Bill and Hillary, if you'll remember, started with nothing. Bill is now the wealthiest ex-president in the United States. Might it be because Hillary greased the skids, after which Bill accepted massive gratuities? Many think we may never know because she refuses to give up that private email server. And therefore, there's no smoking gun. But I have news for you, folks. A jury can infer guilt from benefits received and subsequent favorable treatment. And FBI Director Jim Comey, a former United States attorney, knows this. He knows what needs to be done. He simply needs to follow the money. Audits of Bill's tax returns, Hillary's tax returns, joint returns. And they're already refiling 5 years of tax returns for their foundation. Now, most people I know who refile tax returns get indicted and go to jail. How do you go from dead broke to filthy rich? Why would you not recuse yourself as Secretary of State when there is a conflict of interest or even the appearance of one? You know, Hillary Clinton's life has always been about the money. From Whitewater to cattle futures to leaving the White House with whatever china she could take. As a prosecutor, I can tell you it's always about money or women, and the Clintons have both. And when I hear things like, oh, everybody does it, my back goes up. I am tired of people defining political deviancy down because it's being committed by a member of their party. And my back goes up when I hear that Russia, because of the Clintons, now controls a great deal of America's uranium. You know, there is a name for people who are willing to sell out their country for cash. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter at Judge Janine, #JusticeOpen. And earlier I sat down with real estate mogul Donald Trump, organization president Donald, the one and only, to talk about Hillary's latest scandals and why he says he's the only one who can beat her in 2016. Take a look. Donald, thanks for having us in the Trump bar, in the Trump Tower, right outside the atrium. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about Hillary Clinton, the cash machine, her being Secretary of State at a time when a Canadian company whose principals donate to her foundation sell their uranium company to the Russians. It had to be approved by her, and that's one of the biggest contributors to the Clinton
She could have
foundation.
real big problems. She could have really, really big problems. When you look at some of those things, it's a very frightening situation for them. I'm sure they're very worried about it. You look at, she's against a pipeline, all of a sudden she's for a pipeline, but $1 million passed. You look at so many of these different deals, she could have very serious problems.
You know, I know people, Donald, who've gone to jail, elected officials who were against something and then were for something with a passage of money. What about the Clinton Foundation, the Global Initiative, all of these where does the money go? They say it goes for good things, but how much goes to the Clintons? Do you know?
Well, you think of it this way, and before I answer that, the email situation. So we thought the emails was just sort of a big
deal.
To me, it was a big deal. To me, it's a very big deal because you get a subpoena and then you cancel. I mean, Richard Nixon, the great Rosemary Woods, what did she do with the tape, with the 8 minutes or the 18 minutes or whatever it was? She presses a button and destroyed her life. He went through hell. I mean, so are they saying if he would have burned the tapes, he would have been better off? What she did with emails was bad. But now, in light of the book, with all of the different things, now you really want to see the emails, and you can't see the emails. So I think it's going to be very tough for her. It's going to be interesting. The only thing I can say is that over the years, they've gotten away with a lot of things that are just inconceivable. I'm very disappointed in Republicans because Republicans, and I'm a Republican, I'm conservative, the Republicans are all talk, no action, whether it's Benghazi, the IRS, the emails. There's this huge feeling of indignation for like 2 days. And then they forget about it. They go on to the next.
Hillary says that the most important thing that I did was restore America's leadership in the world, and I think this was a very important accomplishment. Now, you think you can beat her. How are you going to beat this woman?
I think you can absolutely beat her. I think she's got tremendous baggage. She's got unbelievable baggage. I actually think I'm the only one that can beat her because I know the other people. They're soft. I know what I'm potentially running against. And people have said, I've been called by the most important people in politics telling me, and I don't think they're saying it just to make me feel good, that I'm the only one that can beat Hillary Clinton. And I understand exactly what they're saying, and I think they're right. I don't think Jeb Bush, the last thing we need is another Bush. And I don't think Jeb Bush is beating anybody. I don't see Marco Rubio beating her. I don't see these people beating her. So we're going to see what happens.
We'll have much more of my interview with Donald Trump coming up. But first, here to break down the latest Hillary Clinton scandals, Democratic strategist Richard Fowler joins me now. All right, Richard, you heard my open. Am I wrong?
Well, I think you are wrong, Judge. Thanks for having me. I got to tell you, I can't. It was very well mastered open, though. But first, I agree with Donald Trump on something. And I agree that the Republicans are all talk and no action. So that's 1 point for me, 1 point for the Donald. But beyond that, if we sort of go through your open, there's one exhibit that I want to pull out, and that's Exhibit 3, I believe, where you talk about their work in Haiti. And the Clinton Global Fund has done a lot of amazing things in Haiti. One thing in particular they've done in Haiti is they worked with the farmers to grow coffee beans to make sure that they could actually grow something, produce something, and feed their families. And that's who that's the essence of who Hillary Clinton is. Yeah, there's been some mistakes in the past, but the truth of the matter is that she's a woman who started from the bottom. Now she's made her way to the top, but she's done it by understanding the only way to do it is by pulling up everybody with her, i.e. working with the middle class to make it stronger, building infrastructure to put Americans back to work. That's what she stands for, and I think that's what the American people need.
All right, but Richard, you know what's interesting is, and certainly helping anyone in Haiti, given what they've been through, is a wonderful thing. But, you know, when you look at the specifics of it, you know, you've got Hillary Clinton promising, you know, the 65,000 jobs based on some grant that she got for someone else. And so far, there's only been 5,000 jobs. But, you know, she says that she wants to target Wall Street and she's going after the CEOs and go after the 1%. She is the 1%. I mean, how are you Secretary of State and then allow your department to vote on something where your husband and your foundation is receiving money? And even worse, in the 4 years that she's Secretary of State, Richard, that foundation gets $672, I think it is, $1 million, and yet the grants paid out are only $79 million. $79 million out of $672 million ain't a lot, and then the rest is salaries and expenses. I mean, I don't know any charity that has that kind of breakdown.
Well, number one, on that particular point, the first thing is that when she was Secretary of State, she was not involved in the day-to-day operations of the Clinton Foundation. Her husband was. Now, I understand people like, well, you know, they're married, so they're together, but actually they're two separate entities here, and the legality between the foundation and her role in the State Department are very, very, very clear, right? So, yeah, and not to mention the fact that all the records tell us that it's rare that Hillary and Bill are even in the same city throughout the year.
Well,
so
you're wrong about that, Richard. Let me tell you, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you were absolutely wrong about that. When they are wheeling and dealing in foreign countries, they are both in the same foreign country. Whether it's Colombia, whether it's Haiti, whether it is Russia, they're both there. So that's not true.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Haiti for a second. Bill Clinton went to Haiti on a humanitarian mission.
Yeah, in which he made a fortune, and all his friends did.
Wait a second, Judge. But Hillary Clinton went to Haiti as a request of the President of the United States, and her mission was completely different. She was working with other foreign countries and other foreign leaders to provide aid to the country. They weren't on the same plane having the same meetings, and that's the point that I'm trying to make here. There's a clear distinction between Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and Hillary Clinton when she was part of the Clinton Foundation. Not to mention the fact that the President is able, Bill Clinton is able to do whatever he would like to do when it comes to raising money or speaking fees. He's allowed to do that, just like George W. Bush,
he's
just like
allowed
Ronald
to
Reagan,
do it, and you know what,
just
Richard,
like George H.W. Bush.
I got to wrap it. Here's the problem. He's making money when she's Secretary of State. And by the way, a lot of those promises were never followed through. They didn't file half of the things that they were supposed to, that she said they would.
Let's be very clear.
Oh, no, they didn't. They forgot.
He didn't.
The Canadian government
because she was Secretary of State at the
time. Richard, you got to know your facts before you come on the show. Thanks for being with us. We're going to see you a little later for our special coverage of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And coming up, a lot more from my Justice exclusive with Donald Trump. Is he running for president? His surprising answer is next. And later, my outrage on the slaughter of Christians continues. Plus, don't forget, you get 2 hours of Justice tonight with our special coverage of the White House Correspondents' Dinner at 10 p.m. And vote in tonight's Instant Poll. Is Hillary Clinton all about the money? Facebook or tweet me what you think at Judge Janine, #JusticeOnFox.